Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Hope that you are refreshed. Pretty good weekend on my end. Of course, my son Paxton is playing flag football, man. Another week, he's getting a little bit of experience, and excited about that. Some other activities going on around the area where I'm at, took part in that. But now I'm back, man, back talking about the New Orleans Saints. Took a couple of days off, let some news kind of accumulate here. And since the last time I did a show, I haven't really talked about Brandon Staley becoming the defensive coordinator of the Saints. I do want to say that I appreciate everybody that checked out the two interviews that I had, one with Ross Jackson on Thursday, and my guy Brian McFadden, B-Mac, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now he is a contributor with CBS Sports. We got some more guests, man, coming up real soon, man. I'm looking forward to interviewing more individuals, man, try to get people on the show. There were some individuals that I talked with trying to work out some times that they can actually come on the show. So I'm really trying to make sure that I give you all some quality content. So be on the lookout for some of these interviews. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button so you can get updates on the State of the Saints podcast, man, because we about to take off. All right, we ain't playing no more. All right, we trying to give you all the best information possible. Excited about what's going to be happening this week. Of course, the NFL Combine is this week, and we're going to be talking about the draft. So much is going on, man. So keep it locked right here to the State of the Saints podcast. But if you want to help the channel grow, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Every bit counts when we're trying to grow this channel. So please do your part. Please, ma'am. All right, but let's go ahead and get into it, man. Like I mentioned, Brandon Staley has been named the Saints defensive coordinator. This is a shock to absolutely nobody. I think we pretty much been beating around the bush for the last couple of weeks, just kind of waiting for this to be official. I think that if you talk with any Saints reporter or anybody that covers the team, kind of knew this was the direction that they were going in. This was the direction that they were trying to, focus on. Brandon Staley comes in with quite a bit of an impressive resume. And, it's kind of like one of those situations, just like Kellen Moore, he kind of started off, in the smaller ranks and just slowly emerged as a head coach. He started back, his coaching career starts back in 2006. He was a graduate assistant at Northern Illinois. He was also a defensive line coach at St. Thomas in Minnesota. Hutchinson from 2010 to 2011. He was a graduate assistant at Tennessee in 2012. John Carroll, I had to really look that up, man. I didn't know what that was. Back in 2013, he was the defensive coordinator and secondaries coach. James Madison, I'm familiar with them because I cover Coastal Carolina. That's one of their rivals in the Sun Belt. Back in 2014, he was the defensive coordinator. Then he went back to John Carroll as the defensive coordinator and secondaries coach. Then Chattanooga in 2017. And then finally in 2017, he came over to the NFL where he was the outside linebackers coach for the Bears. the outside linebackers coach for the Denver Broncos in 2019. And then he became a defensive coordinator in 2020 with the Rams. And, of course, he became a head coach in 2021 to 2023 with the Los Angeles Chargers. And unfortunately, he was fired after that embarrassing loss to the Las Vegas Raiders. He went back and joined the assistant coaching ranks, this time with San Francisco. And now he is the defensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints. So quite a resume there for Brandon Staley. And, you know, he had a lot of stops, man, but sometimes those stops can help you along the way. Look, Brandon Staley didn't work out as a head coach. I mean, we know so many different coordinators that do a really good job. When they get head coaching opportunities, it just doesn't work out. And that's okay. You know, some guys are just really good head coaches and some guys are really good coordinators. You know, he is a good coordinator. He coached the best defense in the NFL back in 2021 with the Los Angeles Rams. And, you know, they had the number one ranked defense in all type of statistical categories. You know, so that is a plus. And now he's coming over to the New Orleans Saints, and he's going to add something that is a little bit different than what New Orleans Saints fans are used to. He is a guy that likes to run the 3-4. We know that the Saints have run a 4-3 for quite some time. Their defense is built around the 4-3. A lot of guys that kind of have that range, that 6'6", 6'7" long wingspan. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how the Saints are going to be able to create this 3-4 defense. As you know, with the 3-4 defense, you got 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers, really led by a real good defensive tackle, a nose tackle, or somebody that can kind of plug up the middle. And then you have your outside linebackers that can play standing up, or they can put their hand on the ground to rush the quarterback, which probably would have been good for a player like Zach Bond. If, he would have waited at least one more year, he probably would have lived up to that potential. But I'm interested to see how this team is going to be able to change some things around. I'm really concerned about if they run the 3-4, who is going to be that nose tackle? Who is going to be that guy that is going to plug up the middle? Pause. Who is going to be that guy who is going to demand that double team? And I can tell you right now, based on what I have seen, no disrespect to any defensive tackle on the team, I don't think that the dominant defensive tackle is on the team right now. So the Saints are going to have to look for that maybe in the draft. And this is one of those situations where, if you can get a guy like Mason Graham, it probably would be really good, right? I don't think that Mason Graham will be there when the New Orleans Saints pick at number 9. I feel like he's probably going to be a top 5 draft pick. A lot of teams would need the services of a Mason Graham, so I don't see him being there. So what else can you do? I mean, you can probably add a really good linebacker, super athletic guy. Mike Green is out there, the guy out of Marshall who's a freakishly athletic, defensive end / edge rusher, linebacker, what have you. He probably can service that role. But I'm just wondering to myself, with the New Orleans Saints, changing around their defense, could this be one of those situations where you may think about maybe, trading back and maybe adding some draft picks? Now, I know this doesn't sound like popular opinion, and I've said this on several episodes. It sounds like I'm kind of reneging on, my take on my stance saying they should pick at number 9. But I think about what this 3-4 defense is going to need. And I'm looking around, I don't see too many guys on this team that would be able to, change it up, and be able to run that. I think that the Saints are going to need a complete different facelift. There's a couple guys on the team I feel like would thrive in this type of environment. To me, I feel like Pete Warner would probably thrive in this environment. I think that Pete Warner is a guy that, he leave a lot to be desired. I think he's a much better player if they probably have him running, all around the field and showing his athleticism. And that's what the Saints have been missing, to be quite honest with you. Not the fact that these guys that they drafted aren't athletic, but, when you're running a 4 or when you're running a 4-3 defense, it's like you're kind of sacrificing athleticism for skill position guys on the team. So I think that you're probably going to see more athletic players on the defensive side of the football. I can see maybe some of the issues that have plagued the New Orleans Saints, like, struggling against mobile quarterbacks. I can see that actually being passe. The fact that you will have more linebackers on the field that will be athletic. But look, anybody knows that a really good 3-4 defense is always led by a guy who is a really good nose tackle, because you really need somebody that can be dominant up front. And you also need some linebackers that's not afraid to fly around the field, man, and hit people. Because if you don't have that nose tackle, man, if you don't have that guy, teams suffer, man, especially when it comes to the run. You know what I'm saying? You pretty much become pretty weak when it comes to that. If you don't have athletic linebackers and, edge rushers, or you don't have that dominant defensive tackle, teams struggle, man. So I think that's the first key. The Saints are going to have to find that nose tackle. So if Mason Graham is on the board, I would not be surprised if the Saints draft him, but I don't see him at 9. There are also a couple other guys that you could probably add to the team, that probably serve that role and do a really good job, at it. Jalen Walker is one guy that, linebacker, edge rusher out of Georgia. He can be a really good, 3-4 guy. I think that Michael Williams, can also add to the team defensively. But I'm excited to see this, because this might be one of those, those defenses that we've been talking about here on the State of the Saints podcast for quite some time. That defense where you have yourself like a TJ Watt, a guy that just can dominate, get you, north of almost 20 sacks. Somebody that can be able to do something like that if you play your cards right. I just think that the Saints definitely, they're going to need an overhaul on the defensive side of the football, and also think it's going to take some time, man. It's going to take some time. But with that, down the road, we're going to probably lose some well-known guys, especially if they really just embrace this entire philosophy. And I feel like they should, because why would you go out here and get Brandon Staley if you're not going to lean into what he does best? So it might mean saying goodbye to some guys that are familiar to the New Orleans Saints, some players that have become fan favorites, but that just comes with the territory when you're changing things around, when you bring on a new coaching staff, when you bring in a new head coach. Things change, and sometimes, unfortunately, the people that you appreciate and admire the most end up being a casualty of a new regime. But should be fun to see. We'll get into the Saints hiring a new coach on the defensive side of football in just a second. But I do want to acknowledge the fine folks at BetUS. You can sign up today, get up to 150% on your first deposit, up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. Use the promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. But let's go ahead and pay attention a little bit to the chat. And it's very simple if you're new to the channel. If you want to interact here on the State of the Saints podcast, you can always put your comments in the chat. We will read them. We just appreciate the support. I ask that everybody hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on your way in as we draw attention to the chat here. James says, I have been in several draft simulators, and Shedeur Sanders is available at 9. Would you take him above a offensive lineman or defensive lineman? Well, you know what? If that's a good question. And honestly, I don't know if I can answer that. I look at the New Orleans Saints, and I look at the fact that Kellen Moore is the new head coach. He didn't really commit to Derek Carr. He doesn't really have to commit himself to Spencer Rattler. I was talking with Brian McFadden, and he really put something on my mind, man. As much as we like Spencer Rattler, and we all do, like, we like this guy. Like, I want him to succeed. I'm a huge Spencer Rattler fan. I believe in this guy. I feel like a lot of the things that took place last season had a lot to do with the fact that he didn't have a supporting cast around him. And also there was some growing pains. I mean, that was just, part of being a rookie and going through the motions of being a quarterback in the National Football League. But Kellen Moore is not conjoined at the hip with Spencer Rattler. He didn't draft Spencer Rattler, okay? Anything that Kellen Moore has on his team as of this moment, he has inherited from the old regime, right? Until they have the NFL draft, these are just guys that he really doesn't have any emotional attachment to. I mean, he probably knows some of these players that may be on the Saints team. Maybe he met them around the way or what have you. But at the end of the day, he can do whatever he wants. So if Shedeur Sanders is there and he has an opportunity to draft him and have a quarterback that he can build in his system, why the heck not? And I don't feel like that's out of the realm of possibilities either, because if you look at Kellen Moore, I mean, him being with the Dallas Cowboys all those years, we know Deion Sanders' relationship with the Dallas Cowboys throughout the years. I'm pretty sure that he knows, Kellen Moore quite well. I mean, especially him being, from that area. I mean, well, not being from that area, but living in that area, out there, in the Frisco area, of Texas, so all I know is that's not out of the realm of possibility when it comes to Kellen Moore's thinking. Like it's well within his rights. Whatever he does, like it's warranted. Like that's just what it is. Like he has the right to be able to draft the quarterback that he wants if that quarterback is available. Now, I don't think that Shedeur Sanders is going to be available at 9. I feel like he's going to get picked up by one of these teams, rather it's the Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans, or the New York Football Giants. I cannot see a scenario where Shedeur Sanders doesn't fall to one of those teams. I mean, you can talk about the upside or lack thereof. You can talk about things that he lacks, holding on to the ball too long, trying to make a play, et cetera, et cetera. But teams, they need quarterbacks. And whoever is the best quarterback available, that team is going to draft them. You look at the Cleveland Browns. They don't have a quarterback on their roster right now that they're high on. I mean, you look at Deshaun Watson, more than likely going to be out for the season. And even if he wasn't, he hasn't shown that he has been able to be that starting quarterback that they need. Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA. I mean, yeah, he showed a little bit of some flashes, with the using his legs and extending plays, but I don't think they're sold on him. So I don't think the quarterback of the future is on that roster. I mean, Jameis Winston, he provides a spark, but he's not going to be with them. He signed a 1-year deal. So that's Cleveland. Then you have the New York Football Giants, Brian Daboll pretty much on the hot seat. He's going to need somebody that's going to be able to be a effective signal caller that's going to help him save his job. So if he can get Shedeur Sanders and build, offense around Shedeur, he already has Malik Neighbors he can throw the ball to, maybe accompany him with some more playmakers around him, then, maybe they can do something in the NFC East. And also the Tennessee Titans. I mean, you look at Will Levis, 2nd round pick. I mean, they kind of, reached for him, if you want to be honest. If you look at these teams, they just need quarterbacks. So I don't expect for Shedeur Sanders to be there at 9. But if he was, I wouldn't be surprised, or take it back if Kellen Moore was to draft him. But I don't see that scenario. I just think that I just think too many teams need quarterbacks, that are in the first 5 picks of the draft. So unless the Saints are going to move up aggressively and try to draft him, I don't see Shedeur Sanders dropping to the Saints. If Shedeur there at number 9, for sure, take him, but he's a Giant. Yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening. I can't see a scenario in which, he falls to the New Orleans Saints. The Saints would have to move up in order to acquire him. LOL, didn't know we had some WWE fans in here too. LOL, let's go. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge WWE fan. I was actually watching WWE before I actually started this show. So man, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've been to 3 WrestleManias. Probably gonna be going to my 4th, since it's gonna be in the city. So definitely want to go to that. So yeah, man, we enjoy wrestling, we enjoy football as well. Well, some of us. I don't want to say everybody. I usually don't neither. I would use my Fire Stick cable hookup. Let's see. WrestleMania 42, April 11th and 12th in New Orleans in 2026. Yeah, it's going to be exciting, man. TJ, I like all the hirings. Feel like we got a major update. Yeah, I just think that people like the changes, and it's TBD, that it works, right? I mean, we don't know what it's going to look like, but we can respect the hustle. Like, I respect people trying. Like, if you keep on trying to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, I just think that you're not going to get the results that you see. But I like the fact that they're trying to do something different. I think that as a Saints fan, you should have appreciation that they're trying to do something different. This has been something that Saints fans have been clamoring for years. The organization, hesitancy when it comes to changing things around. Finally, you're starting to see some changes. Get yourself a young head coach, bringing in people that he feels comfortable with, good football minds, guys that are good teachers, which we'll get to in a second when we're talking about Terry Joseph. But there are so many different things that they're doing right now that seems like they're really good ideas. Now, right now, everybody is excited about the new car. No pun intended when we're talking about Derek Carr. Like, we ain't talking about him, not that car. But, everybody, I'm just using this as an example. You know how you get a new car and step foot off in that thing and, like, you're excited. Like, you look at the miles like about 10. You know what I'm saying? Only miles they have on there, people just test drove around the neighborhood or whatever, right? You got the new car smell. As soon as you press the button, it's going to start for sure. You're excited about it, right? You go down the street, you accelerate, you're pulling down the street, right? You're feeling real good about yourself. And, but, you start driving that car a little bit longer, all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? You start getting that oil change, and then all of a sudden, like, like things start to happen with it. Then like, oh, wait a minute, man. I can remember when I first got this car. So right now we're in the honeymoon phase because everything is going right. Everything seems like a good idea. But we'll see. I think the ideas are good, but let's see how they come together. And also, I'm interested to see the patience of the Who Dat Nation. That's something that's been on my mind for the last couple of weeks. And that's something that I've been lobbying for, the patience of Saints fans, having patience when it comes to this new coaching staff. If it doesn't end up being what we want it to be right away, you have to understand it's a work in progress, especially when you add the fact that they're going to change around his defense and them not having a personnel based on what I'm seeing. All right. I mean, I just think that's something that is also going to prolong the process when it comes to developing this football team. But I'm willing to give them an opportunity to, and be patient. I just think that Saints fans need to be patient. I understand that playoffs hasn't been in the Saints future for quite some time, right? I mean, for the last 4 seasons, the Saints have missed the postseason. And it gets very, very, bothersome that that's happening. But at the end of the day, like, you got to be patient, especially when we know that the Saints got themselves a new head coach and some new pieces that they're going to have to put together. So we'll see. Dalton says, I was going to say put Brazil at nose tackle, but I don't think he's big enough to play nose tackle. Yeah, Dawson. Yeah, that'll be a little bit tough. I don't look at Brian Brzee, as that dominant nose tackle. Like, he's a really good athletic defensive tackle, but he's really good with the 4-3. I've always liked him as a pass rush. I feel like, to me, if the Saints, and I've said this several times, if the Saints ask Brian Brzee to, I don't know, lose a couple pounds or whatever like that, and he can just be a pass rushing defensive lineman or something like that, I feel like he'll have double-digit sacks. I do. I feel like he will have double-digit sacks. I think he'll be a sack leader on the team. Wouldn't surprise me if he be in like a 12 to 15 sack conversation. Like, I think he's that talented. Like, him being able to get 7.5 sacks from the interior lineman position is pretty impressive, man. That's not very easy when you're like basically being double teamed almost every play. So for him to be able to win that matchup and be able to get those sacks is pretty impressive. So I don't know if that's something that, the Saints will explore, but I don't see that, especially when I look at it like run defense is not his strong suit. Maybe you can get someone in there that can help him be able to become more of a dominant interior lineman, but I don't he struggles against the run. And I don't think none of those other guys, like seriously, like I'm just being real. Like they're more like 4-3 guys. Nate Shepard, Colin Sanders, they're more like 4-3 type guys. So, I just think that you need that interior guy that's going to be dominant. Like I don't know, like Aaron Donald ain't walking through that door. Fletcher Cox ain't walking through that door. So you got to figure that thing out. Like if you want to run an effective 3-4 defense, you need a dominant interior lineman. So if Mason Graham is there at 9, I would be shocked if they don't draft him. TJ, is there any chance you think the Titans trade out that number 2 spot? I think they got the number 1 pick, don't they? I think they got the number 1 pick, 504. I don't look. Nothing's out of the realm of possibilities, like especially if a team calls and gives them an offer that they can't refuse, like it's possible, but I don't see that, right? You could say that this isn't a dominant draft for the quarterback position, but still, man, they got some really talented players that you can draft. Like they don't have to draft Cam Ward or Shadir Sanders. Right? I mean, you got Abdul Carter that's there. You got Travis Hunter that's there. Like I said, Mason Graham that's there. You got McMillan that's there. I don't know if you want to get a wide receiver at 1, but you get what I'm saying? Like there's some very, very talented players that you can draft with the number 1 pick. You don't necessarily have to draft the quarterback. Like I understand that Tennessee leaves a lot desired when it comes to the quarterback position. I don't think they're really sold on Will Levis. And, you got rid of Malik Willis. He's in Green Bay. You had Mason Rudolph, whose guy's more like a journeyman backup at this point. So I would say that you can get yourself a quarterback, like, I don't know, with the first pick. But if you don't feel like you have yourself a franchise quarterback, then I'm just saying, like the 2026 draft can be even more appealing. Like, think about this. Like you got some quarterbacks that are out here right now that can be serviceable and that can help you, right? I mean, if you was to get like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, Matthew Stafford, he's looking for a new home possibly. Russell Wilson probably can provide some services for at least a year. Justin Fields, but you gotta be on the lookout for that. Don't know if the Steelers are going to sign him. It's not really in their wheelhouse to really sign guys like that, unless they're really in love with them. I mean, so there are quarterbacks out there that can be bridge quarterbacks until like next year when you could actually draft your quarterback. But on the other hand, you don't want to be in this position anymore, right? You don't want to have the number 1 pick next season. So the fact that you haven't had the number 1 pick, and I don't know how long, like it's been a minute, been a hot minute. You gotta go way back for they probably was the Oilers the last time they had the number 1 pick. So this is an opportunity for them. So if you can get yourself a franchise quarterback or potential franchise quarterback, why not? But in this draft, there's only 2 quarterbacks that everybody's talking about. The other quarterbacks, everybody just trying to, talk into the room. There's only 2 guys that are actually, when you open the door, people are going to see their name on the list, right? That's just the way that it's going right now. But let's go ahead and stop there, and then I'll get back to the comments just a little bit later. But let's go ahead and address the New Orleans Saints adding a new defensive coach to their staff, Terry Joseph. Terry Joseph was the secondaries coach at the University of Texas, as well as an assistant coach. So this is a guy that comes in with a lot of cachet. He's 51 years old. His alma mater is Northwestern State University. And, he's coached in quite a few places, man. I mean, he's from the New Orleans area. He went to Archbishop Shaw High School in Louisiana. He also went to Destrehan High School in Louisiana, LSU. He coached there, Louisiana Tech, Tennessee, Nebraska, Texas A&M, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Texas, and now with the New Orleans Saints. So this is a guy who's very, very familiar with the New Orleans area, like being from that area, like growing up in that area. So he's coming back home, and we know how that goes, man. We love ourselves, our hometown, homegrown individuals. And I like the fact that the Saints have been kind of leaning into that as of late. Really been kind of putting emphasis on Louisiana guys. We see LSU, LSU breadcrumbs sprinkled all around the New Orleans Saints team with the Honey Badger. They tried Jarvis Landry a couple of years ago. Foster Moreau was on the team. Trey Turner, before he had the pec injury, he was from LSU. So, you got some guys that have that LSU pedigree. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on the team right now. So it seems like the New Orleans Saints are really paying attention to the pipeline. I just never understood why the New Orleans Saints never really put that much emphasis on LSU guys. I think it was the way that maybe Sean Payton think. He feels like maybe players that young being too close to home, there are different vices that they could actually get into. Familiar territory can sometimes, if a player doesn't have the right mind, it can be it can be bad for him. Several players have played close to home and have made some very, very tough, it has made it very, very tough on them. So maybe that's what they're thinking. But, the Saints have really been doing a good job at getting guys that are high character guys and that are fan favorites. And, I think with Terry Joseph, he's a teacher. He's a guy that anybody that I've seen talk about him speaks glowingly about him, especially his ability to be a teacher, simplifying things for guys, breaking it down for them to understand. And I just think that is something that the Saints need. We know that we've been talking about player development and how the New Orleans Saints need to be able to develop players in order for them to get themselves out of this cap situation. Getting guys that you can draft and develop in your system. That way you can be like some of these teams that are really credible franchises that have really good practices that a lot of the NFL teams like to mirror, like the Baltimore Ravens, like the Green Bay Packers, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those teams, they do a really good job at developing players, and they do a really good job at selecting players. So the Saints have to get back to the basics here. The basics is drafting players that are high character guys, but also be able to give you what you need on the field. Levels of athleticism that you need. You need to definitely up the speed defensively. So getting good teachers in here to coach this talent up and develop this talent where they can be what you need them to be very, very quickly is going to be key for the New Orleans Saints. So bringing in Terry Joseph, a familiar guy coming back home, and also with a lot of cachet is a plus. So I'm looking forward to seeing what role he is going to serve. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on the secondary. That's just kind of like his calling card. But I think that he is going to be one of those guys that is going to be a really good teacher and help this defense get on track. I think especially when you're looking at how they're going to change some things over, you need somebody that's going to be a really, really good teacher to try to make sure that guys are up to speed on what Brandon Staley is going to need from them. So congratulations to Terry Joseph coming over from the University of Texas. And now he is going to be joining the New Orleans Saints on their staff. All right, so let's get back to the comments here. It says, I still don't see it happening, Josh. Cody Turning Hill. Are we talking about Cody Rhodes now? Man, I'm going to ignore all the wrestling comments. I know what y'all doing right now. I know it's on. I'm going to ignore it because I don't want nobody spoiling that for me, all right? Because when I'm done with this, that's what I'm about to go do. Watch the end of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. TJ, what do you think about moving Brazil to defensive end, or am I tripping? Nah, we on the same page as you. I'm pretty sure you heard 504 from a little bit of the spiel that I had about Brian Brzee. Yeah, we definitely on the same page. Let's see. I can't wait until the draft. Yeah, Desi, me neither. You know, I think that this has been a really exciting offseason for the New Orleans Saints. I mean, it like there's a lot going on. Like I can only imagine if you're on the ground covering this team consistently, like how tiring this has to be. You know, normally you'll probably have a few storylines that can kind of just keep things flowing, but when you go from firing your head coach, hiring an interim coach, not going with that interim coach, hiring one of the youngest coaches to ever be hired in NFL history, will be the youngest head coach in the NFL at the beginning of the season, getting a new defensive coordinator. Don't know what's going to happen with your starting quarterback. Don't know what's going to happen with some mainstays. Like, there's so much going on around this football team. Like I said, it has to be mentally exhausting. So I have nothing but respect and admiration for those that cover this football team, because it can't be easy, man. You know, like it got to have a lot of understanding in households, like, because you got to be able to be dialed in. You know, there's so much you have to write about. There's so many things you got to, you got to be, got to keep up with. So kudos to those brothers and those sisters that are doing this work, man. They're doing an incredible job, no doubt about that. Let's see. I got to see John Ridgway again. He's a big boy we drafted last year. John Ridgway, we didn't draft, Ivan. He was actually traded to the New Orleans Saints. He came over from the Commanders. I think the Saints got a 6th-round pick for him. But the crazy thing about it is the Saints end up giving the 6th-round pick back to the Washington Commanders with the trade of Marshawn Lattimore. So they end up just trading them their own draft pick back. But John Ridgway III, he came over from the Commanders. He wasn't drafted by the New Orleans Saints. Let's see, man. I think Kellen Moore and Shedeur would be absolute magic. I think so too. And I think if Shedeur Sanders was to fall to the Saints, I don't think they would have any objections. You know, I'm pretty sure Kellen Moore knows Shedeur Sanders well, being around the Dallas-Fort Worth area during the time where Shedeur Sanders was coming up into the ranks as a quarterback around the DF Dub. So is Mason Graham the best nose tackle in the draft? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's a dominant guy. He's one of those interior linemen that can end up being an absolute monster. You know, the guys that how we talk about, some of the best interior linemen in the game. Like, he has that type of energy that he comes with. I think that he will be an instant fan favorite if he was drafted to the New Orleans Saints. He has a high motor. You'll never have to worry about this dude quitting. I think he's an absolute animal. If the Saints draft him, man, who that nation, they ought to be excited, because you're going to have yourself a cornerstone player as long as he stays healthy. I mean, from everything that I've seen, like, I just like the way the dude is wired. He just loves football, and you never see him taking plays off. Like, I've never seen this guy take a play off. Since, I felt like the New Orleans Saints need to, focus on the interior, I started to really pay attention and look at his game. I mean, I've watched, games where, Michigan didn't look as appealing, and he's still out there working. You know what I'm saying? He's still out there grinding. I think one of his best games, to me was, when it was getting the doors blew off him by Texas. Like, you can still see him out there still getting after it. Like, I have respect for guys that when they know that the lead may be insurmountable, but they don't see the score, right? They still go out there and they still ball out, they still play. If the Saints get their hands on Mason Graham, they got something special, man. Yeah, he definitely, in my opinion, he's definitely the best interior lineman in the draft. I'd be shocked if he doesn't pan out. Whatever team, whoever decides to draft him, whatever team he goes to, I'll be shocked if he don't end up being everything that he is advertised to be. TJ, do you think Ashton Genty or Sanders at number 9 will make the Saints a dangerous team? I think with both guys, it would be in due time. I think when you look at Ashton Genty, he can bring something to the table. But look, man, I'm not ready to just, give up on Alvin Kamara. I think that Alvin, a lot of the issues was just that offensive line, man, and all the hardships that the Saints dealt with. Because to me, I just think that Alvin would have went on an absolute warpath if the Saints could have stayed healthy and didn't lose so many key players. I could see Alvin Kamara like just having a monster season. Like, I just think that things kind of, tapered down a little bit towards the end of the season. And I just think that people just, feel like, oh, because things go awry and then he ends up getting hurt. And like, I still believe in Alvin Kamara. Like, I feel like Ashton Genty and Alvin Kamara can be a really good 1-2 punch. When it comes to Shedeur Sanders, I think that it will probably take some time, but I believe in Shedeur Sanders. Look, I know people look at him and they're like, oh, man, that's Deion Sanders' son, and that's the only reason why he gets the attention that he gets. Look, I believe wholeheartedly if Shedeur Sanders' name was Shedeur Johnson, Shedeur Bridges, Shedeur Young, like people would be looking at him and singing his praises. But it's just the fact that we know who Deion Sanders is as a coach, as a person. When it comes to his personality, his persona. I think that Deion Sanders and Primetime are two different individuals. I think that he created Primetime to play the game. He created Coach Prime to play the game, right? The ratings game, the money game, right? And I just think that he kind of put that on his sons. Like he has shown his sons like how to market themselves. But what people don't realize is they're good marketers, but he's a good football player too. He's an accurate football player. He makes really smart decisions. He holds on to the ball too long. That's the one thing that I feel like he needs to work on. He got to get that ball out of his hand on time. But he's a very smart football player. I've watched every single snap Shedeur Sanders has ever taken during his collegiate career. Like, he started off 2 years, his first 2 years at my alma mater, Jackson State University. So, of course, I'm watching that. And at Colorado, like, I just think that if anybody is looking at this guy saying he ain't not all that and he ain't this, he ain't that, I just think that people just fall into that narrative. Like, I think that if Shedeur Sanders drops to the New Orleans Saints would have their quarterback of the future. Like, I really honestly believe that. Like, this dude is good. Like, people just don't like the antics, right? Or the circus that comes around him. But he's a good football player. I mean, it's fair. People they just want to focus on their football, but there's some things that's going to come with Shedeur. But at the end of the day, some winning gonna come with it too. You ain't gonna be losing games because he's your quarterback. I can tell you that. You're gonna be in the game because he's your quarterback. The way this is gonna sound crazy. The way that I look at Jaden Daniels, I see certain qualities in Shedeur Sanders that resemble that of Jaden Daniels. Seriously. Like, the only difference is Jaden Daniels does it with I guess like with quietness and grace. Like, he's like if Marcus Colston was a quarterback. Like, that's kind of like who he is. Like, you don't really see him all flashy and stuff like that, man. He ain't like he just out here doing his job, man. He just focused on what he's focused on. So, yeah, I mean, but Shedeur Sanders, he's good, but he's going to let you know that he's good too in the process. Kellen Moore is putting together a pretty good staff. I guess that's what you're saying, Brandon. Yeah. So far, so good, man. The way that it's looking right now. You said not Ridgeway, Christian Boyd. Yeah, Christian Boyd. Yeah, he was drafted by the Saints. He was a late round draft pick. I want to say he came out of Northern Iowa as well. Same school Trevor Penning came out of. So, yeah, man. I mean, he might be a little something with Christian Boyd. I mean, he showed some flashes, but I don't know if we talk about dominant nose tackle dominant, but If they can find a dominant nose tackle and Christian Boyd, that's what you got drafting the 6th or the 7th round. I want to say the 6th round, but if you can find that, you're all right. All right, let me see. The final boss entrance with Lil Wayne, The Block Is Hot, was so lit. Yeah, that was pretty cool, man. That was pretty cool. I had to make sure I took a look at that, man, because I didn't want Slim to be up here watching Raw and be spoiling nothing for me. But nah, man, we was talking about SmackDown. I was like, man, I'm trying to fast forward through these spoilers that y'all are putting up here, man. I ain't paying no attention to that because like I said, I want to finish watching what I was watching before I started the podcast here. It says old coaching doesn't utilize players' talent to the fullest. I hope this coaching staff will do better. Well, I don't believe that, man. Old coaching, James, because I mean, I don't believe that, man. Look, I just think that you have to be able to adjust, right? You got to be able to, adjust to the times. I mean, we see some really good coaches. I mean, matter of fact, we just seen it. Just seen the Super Bowl, right? Defensive coordinator, of the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, he's 70 years old, right? You know what I'm saying? Like he's 70 years old. So I mean, and we see like he had like, oh man, those players out there just flying all over the field. So that doesn't make any sense, like I just think that I won't say it don't make sense. You have some coaches that don't want to conform. I agree with that. There are some that don't want to conform to the times. Like they just know what they know, and that's just it. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever we got going on, that's just what it is. I've been coaching defense the same way this many years, and it is what it is, right? But give credit to guys like Vic Fangio. Give credit to guys, like the late Dick LeBeau. Guys who have been in a league that has done it all, seen it all, has seen the transition from the defensive side of football change dramatically throughout the years in a way that you have to approach the game. Give them credit, to be able to understand that they need to adjust with the time in order for them to stay around. There are so many great coordinators have flaked out because they just didn't want to adjust with the times. You got to be able to adjust. I think that's a good point that you made. Some coaches, they on some OG status and they just don't want to conform. James, you're absolutely right. Right? You are absolutely right with that. But credit to those that are willing to adjust, they're willing to change some things up and really willing to reinvent themselves in the process. That is how you become a mainstay in the National Football League. Let's see. Trayvon Henderson, trade day, ready. He a dog. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a talented guy. There's a talented guy too. I mean, they got this is a really good draft for edge rushers, interior linemen, offensive linemen. It's pretty good as well, if you ask me. But I just think that if we are talking 3-4 defense, you have to have a dominant nose. Like you have got to have a dominant nose. Like it's just what it is. Like any team that has successfully ran a really good 3-4 defense, probably because they got a really good nose. Like they got a really good interior lineman. If you don't have that, then you got some trouble. So that's why I'm saying like it might, unless the New Orleans Saints like hit, find lightning in a bottle here, it's probably going to be a little bit of a transition. So we'll see. I'm willing to give them opportunity to get the personnel because that's going to be different. Now I'm just wondering how much of the draft they're going to use to try to flip this defense. What's your reaction on to Liddell Betts going to the Giants? I know you don't follow Iowa like that, but still. I'm not, like I said, I mean, you're right. Like I don't really follow Iowa University Iowa like that. Like I mean, I know one thing, like they're really good with tight ends. You know what I'm saying? Like tight ends a good running game. You know what I'm saying? Like they're smash mouth, bring your lunch pail type team. I do know that from the University of Iowa. Like they're a smash mouth team, always have been. always kind of been that short yardage team, always been that team that's going to physically beat you up. But to be honest with you, I don't really know that much about their coaching staff or personnel like that. Like, most of the time, if I'm looking at them, it's probably because they got a really good tight end about to come out. Like, no offense, like Sam Laporta or something, guys like that, but I don't know that much about Iowa, to be honest with you, Josh. I'll just be lying to kick it with you if I was just, sitting up here talking about Iowa. I know they're a really good Big Ten team. I know that they always seem to be in the Big Ten championship. It's unfortunate because they always, like, you got to give the credit to the head coach. They always have a really good defense, and they always have a really potent they really always have like a really potent running game. And that's why I can appreciate that. They always got some really good offensive linemen. Wisconsin is another school in the Big Ten that I have a lot of respect for, but I don't follow Iowa like that. I don't. If the Saints planning drafting running backs, it need the B can do it all. Okay. I mean, I guess if it paraphrases, you say if the Saints are planning to draft a running back, he needs to do it all. I assume that's what you're saying, Dalton. So paraphrasing that, yeah. I don't know if you have to do it all, but that's kind of where the NFL is transitioning to. I feel like if you have one running back that can do it all, and then you have another running back that's limited, right? That's in there just as a ball carrier, and everybody's going to know that. I feel like it kind of tips the hand of the offense. So if you have a running back who can do a multifaceted of things, right? A guy that can, come in and, run in between the tackles, catch the ball out of the backfield, like when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, for example, right? I mean, you look at their running game. I mean, you got Saquon Barkley who can do both, right? He can run in between the tackles, catch the ball out of the backfield. Then you got Gainwell who can do the same thing. So if Gainwell comes into the game to relieve Saquon Barkley, the Philadelphia Eagles can pretty much run the same offense because Kenneth Gainwell can basically just do the same stuff. So when I look at it, it's like the more guys that you have on the team that aren't just one-trick ponies, the more dangerous your offense will be or your defense will be. So, yeah, I agree with you, Dalton. Having a running back that can do a multifaceted of things is a plus. And it's also very helpful in case one of the running backs go down. I mean, look at Jahmyr Gibbs with Detroit. I mean, we looked at David Montgomery, had a really good season last year, goes down towards the tail end of the season with an MCL strain. And then you had Jahmyr Gibbs, who was getting the majority of the carries. He didn't even have to lead a field, right? He was able to run between the tackles, catch the ball out of the backfield. He was dangerous. So they didn't have to worry about that. So imagine if, he was just that third down back that was just coming in the game, catching the ball out the backfield. Then you would have to worry about where was the David Montgomery production coming from when you don't have David Montgomery. But the Saints, they can do something that, they have done in years past, right? I mean, Mark Ingram, like when he first got with the Saints in 2011, he kind of struggled in the screen game. But as his Saints career started to grow, he developed as a running back. He became a much better screen catching, all purpose back. But then when you had Alvin Kamara come in, they became a really good 1-2 punch. And there were times where Mark would go down and Alvin can come in, and still the Saints will continue to thrive. And if Alvin goes down, Mark can come in and he can do his thing, right? So the more you can do, the more effective you can be for your football team, and the more dangerous your football team will be because you have so many weapons, at your disposal, and so many people that can do so many different things. So teams can't just say, oh man, that's such and such, he in the game because they about to throw the ball. Well, you don't know that for sure. I'm gonna take a few more and then we're gonna go ahead and get up out of here, folks. Says I can't see the Saints running a 3-4 with our personnel unless one of the linebackers going to play with his hand on the ground. Yeah, Mira. I mean, I know that a lot of podcasts that I've seen, people have been talking about Isaiah Foskey, and this could be an opportunity for Isaiah Foskey. Now, before people start laughing and smacking their lips, I just want people to be real with themselves. All right. I don't feel like the Saints have done any, and I mean this with all due respect. I don't think the New Orleans Saints really have done some of these young guys favors when it comes to developing them. And I feel like that's a fair take, especially like when you see what these other players are doing with other teams when they utilize them in a certain way. Like we see Zach Bourne, first team All-Pro. We see CJ Garner-Johnson when he's running that safety position, right? I mean, he seems like he's more comfortable in his role. You see Trey Hendrickson, right? So it might seem pretty tongue-in-cheek with some people, but who's to say like Isaiah Foskey wouldn't thrive in a 3-4? Who knows? I mean, you owe it to your organization and him because you drafted him in the second round. You drafted him to, to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like to be a guy that puts his hand on the ground, possibly rushes the quarterback. So before he goes out of the door, and don't you feel like you owe it to your organization as well as him to see what he has? So I don't feel like that's out of the realm of possibility. They got to develop players better. So who's to say like Isaiah Foskey in the 3-4 wouldn't be able to thrive? If y'all notice, I ain't really been talking about players and oh man, this player ain't got this, he ain't got that. Because we know that this organization, unfortunately, has not really done a good job at developing some of these players. Like some of them, they done good with. I think that Alontae Taylor has taken a step forward from like last season. It kind of was stalled. It kind of was stalled because he had to go to the outside because of the injuries to the cornerback position. But I really felt like he was coming into his own in the nickel. And, I think that he was starting to develop. But, unfortunately, some things happened, so he had to take one for the team. So there are cases where guys have developed, but I also feel that they have let some of these other guys down. Like they have allowed them to, unfortunately, kind of waste away because they want them to be something that they haven't been. So maybe giving them an opportunity to be what they were in college, right? The thing that got him to be that second round pick. Maybe that's what you need. And hopefully it can help him. Because I don't want to be talking bad about no Isaiah Foskey, man. Matter of fact, I don't want to be talking about any of these players like that, man. I want them to live up to their potential. Because if they live up to the potential, it's a better chance the Saints can get themselves out of this situation. So maybe you'll probably see a better version of Isaiah Foskey. Maybe you'll see more of a ferocious Pete Werner, right? But I also feel like you need some more. You need some more talent. You need some more athletic linebackers. You need some guys that's going to be able to rush the passer and that's going to be able to drop in coverage. If you don't have that, then this whole 3-4 experiment is going to be a disaster from the get-go. But I think that, you're not going to ask Brandon Staley to come to the organization if you're not going to make a commitment to changing this thing around and doing what is necessary in order for your defense to be able to thrive in this new 3-4 defense. But I want to say thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Once again, my name is Timothy J. Jones. Really do appreciate your time. Much love to each and every one of you. I ask that you hit the subscribe button if you have not already. Hit that bell for notifications and also hit that like button. We got over 300 people watching this right now across platforms. And I'm just asking you to help the show to grow. We just try to get the numbers up. We just try to grow as a show. And I'm just asking for your help, man. I'm just asking you to hit the like button. I'm just asking you to subscribe if you like what you heard here. If you interact throughout the show, just ask that you hit the like button. Now, we got previous episodes here on YouTube. You can also check out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones. We'll continue our talk about the New Orleans Saints and Brandon Staley. Also, we'll be talking about the NFL Combine. As we know, the NFL Combine is this week in Indianapolis. And, definitely going to be talking about that, talking about the biggest storylines of, that's going on around Indy, looking at some of those players that can actually help the New Orleans Saints. Definitely going to be paying more attention to those, those 3-4 defensive type players, right? Because like I said, the Saints are going to have to make some changes. You have to believe they're going to have to make some changes in order for them to be able to run this 3-4 defense. But I really do appreciate it. Have a good morning, noon, night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. And like always, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.